Hello, my name is Meg and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so happy that you are here. It has been far too long since I have popped on here with a new video, and I have a very special video to share with you today. I feel like I always say that, but I just have so many wonderful projects that I have been working on so far this year, and I wanted to sit down with you and share them in a bit of a diary style video. So, as all the YouTubers say in this kind of awkward pause moment, grab a cup of something and a project and do all the things and sit down and join me as I share all of the wonderful knitting, crocheting, dyeing, and making that I have been doing over the past few months. So first I want to start off with what I'm wearing. This is the weekday pullover. It is a gorgeous pattern by Amy Sher. Oh, I'm obsessed. I'm just obsessed with just how wearable of a finished garment it is. It's one of those garments that you can dress it up, dress it down. It's really, truly an everyday knit. I can wear it to the office to work. I can wear it with jeans on just a casual Saturday. It's so cozy. It's warm. I'm just so happy with how it came out. So I feel like my head's disappearing when I stand up, but that's okay. So this is a raglan style. It was knit from the top down, and she incorporated this beautiful, it's actually not a cable, even though it looks like a cable. So this beautiful little faux cable into the raglan increases for the yoke, and yeah, super happy. So I knit this in a brand new yarn to the shop. This is one of my yarns that I'm going to be carrying. And if you are familiar at all with my American tweed yarn, let's see if I have any. Ooh, I do. My shop is behind me in case you couldn't see it. So my American tweed yarn, this is a US sourced non-superwash tweed yarn that I came out with in early 2024. So I, for the fall, I wanted to introduce a worsted weight version, and even better, this tweed was spun with rainbow neps. So the neps are bits of like nylon and polyester. So it is a man-made fabric, but it's a fabric that resists the acid dyes that I use to dye the protein animal fibers. So when you dye it, you still get all those tweedy bits that don't take the dye, so all those flecks of color come through, and it's a really cool effect. So the American tweed has a more of a traditional tweed color with your, let's see here, there's like blacks, tans, browns, bits of gray. Really beautiful. So more of like a neutral effect. This is something that's going to go with like all the colors. For the worsted, for the fall is just all about bright, brilliant colors, right? So I wanted something that kind of was like simple, but just had that like little bit of like bold daring to it. So I went with the rainbow tweed for this, and I'm really happy I did, because I feel like it's the rainbow tweed that gives it that bit of extra, because like you don't need much more color than those rainbow neps to create something that's just so visually striking and beautiful. And like I said, it goes with everything. You could wear this with a beautiful skirt, some black pants. I'm wearing it just with some like gray jeans, and effortless, absolutely effortless. So highly recommend this pattern. I brought the first batch of this yarn with me to the Western New York Fiber Arts Festival that I vended at very recently, and it completely sold out. So the listing is up on my website. It is listed as sold out, but there is a wait list that you can sign up for, so you get an email notification for when it comes back up in stock. And if you join my email newsletter, I am preparing a new order. So I think I'm going to do a pre-order. So if you want in on this, definitely get on my newsletter so that you can make sure that you reserve your skeins. So how much yarn did I use? I knit the size 4, and I really should have brought the pattern in with me so that I could check what size correlates with the bust size. But I did do some modifications because I wanted more of kind of a fitted look rather than, I know this pattern had a lot of positive ease built into it. It's actually written that if you wanted to make it into a dress, you could. But I wanted something that was just a little bit more form-fitting, so I did a little bit less positive ease. So you can see there's definitely, I have a lot of ease there. I mean, I would say I probably got about 6 inches of positive ease, but I did the size 4, and I did have to do a lot of modifications on the raglan. This is something that I've just had a lot of issues with fit for me. I am very tall. I'm 5'10", and I have very broad shoulders, and like a smaller bust and waist measurement. So I struggle with, if I go by like my true bust waist measurement for a garment, I should be knitting like a size 3. But if I go by like my yoke size or my shoulder size, sometimes I should be knitting like a size 6, 7, or 8. Yeah. So I never really know what size to pick. And I'm starting to realize that it's okay to mix and match sizes. And that's really what I should be doing. So, you know, if I need more stitches in the shoulder right away, then I should just be casting on more stitches in the shoulder right away. I did not do this with this pattern. I wish I had, but I did not. I kind of want to knit it again and knit it 2 different size, but whatever. Anyway, what I did do, so the pattern is written for this to be a compound raglan, and it just means that instead of doing steady, consistent increases, you increase differently such that it gives you a much more rounded yoke, which makes room for your girlies, which is so great. Unfortunately, that meant that my yoke ended here, and if I added just more length before I split, I had this bubble, and my boobs aren't up here. So I had to kind of rip back, and I ended up just going with a traditional raglan because that way I could kind of slow down the increasing. So by that point, I knew how many stitches I needed for the waist bust size that I wanted. So I just did the math of like, okay, I know how much length I needed, and I know how much width I needed. So I kind of just remathed like how much yoke I needed. So I had to do some modifications with that. Again, tall girl problems, but it came out absolutely perfectly. I don't think, this might be my absolute best fitting garment that I've knitted to date. So super excited with it. And so let me know what you think and if you plan to make one yourself. My next project that I wanted to share is another finished object. I am so excited to share this. So this was a collaboration that I have been working on pretty much since March, I want to say, of this year. I've been working on this shawl right here that I slipped on with Jessica A's. She is a knitwear designer. She goes by the name Double the Stitches if you wanted to look her up on Instagram. She also has her own knitwear society. She's got an amazing group on Facebook that you should join it. They're super active. I do slip into the group from time to time because it's just such a great community that she's got going on in that group. So highly recommend joining it. So she contacted me like early spring with a design concept for this shawl, and it just sounded so wonderful, and it just resonated so strongly with me. She is from Brooklyn, and she, wrote this wonderful story about, how she was inspired by the shoreline, and she just wanted something that really captured like the essence of the water, but was still warm and cozy, that kind of city spirit, yet coastal at the same time. And she threw out some color options, and yeah, and I just was like, this project was just totally kismet. I live in Fairport, New York, which is right next to Rochester, New York. I'm a lifer here. I grew up here. I grew up on the shore in Greece, New York, literally lakefront to Lake Ontario. So I am such a lake person. I don't remember like never being in the water. So so as soon as you tell me that you want to do like a project that like captures the essence of like sea, lake life, coastal water, you have enraptured my attention. And especially some of the colorways that she was interested in using, I was like, yes, I'm there. So I want to show you the shawl because, oh, it's just stunning. So she had, kind of sketched out her design. She had done some swatching, and, she had a concept kind of knitted up in a small thing, and some other yarn, and it was so beautiful, and I was so excited. And so this is the finished shawl. I will stand up so that you can see. Let's see if I can get, woo, it's big. Yeah, you don't like realize when it's on just how big it is. Okay. Whoa, I almost took the whole table down. Okay. This is, okay. Let's just hold it up like this. Okay. Look at how absolutely beautiful that is. I'm so happy with how it came out. So it is a triangle shawl. It is pretty much like a perfect triangle. Is that what we're calling it? That's what I just called it. So let's go with that. So it starts off with a garter tab cast on. And I will say that, that she actually has different instructions for a garter tab cast on. So I'd never actually started my garter tab the way that, that she had instructed in the pattern. And now I will always start my garter tab cast ons like this. So, at first I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? And it made it so easy. And I feel like it made the tab so neat and tidy. Like sometimes, like you can always tell where that little tab is. So a garter tab cast on is essentially the little square of garter that you start to get the whole shawl going. And sometimes it can just look a little untidy or floppy, and you can't even tell where this shawl starts. It is so perfect. So I will always start my shawls like, or at least my garter tab cast-ons like that. So that alone is worth the pattern. And then you just work simple increases, decreases. And the main highlight of the shawl is this absolute stunning cable that is running down the spine center. And I do not want you to be intimidated by this cable. This is one of the absolute simplest cables that I've ever worked before. So if you are brand new to cables, want to give it a try, I absolutely recommend trying it, because as soon as you read the instructions, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's it? Really? So other than that, it's a garter tab cast on. Increases, there's no decreases. You just increase until you go. Yeah. And that's that. So the other really fun thing about this is that Jessica and we are hosting a knit along for this shawl. So you can join us. It's going to be on Zoom. We are going to be starting September 22nd. It's going to be going all the way until November 3rd. We're going to be meeting on Zoom every other Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So you have plenty of time to pull together your yarn kits and cast on the shawl, or, you know, honestly, cast on any project. We really just want to craft with you. But if you are going to cast on this shawl, Jessica is going to be sharing all of the techniques that you need. So potentially that very special garter tab cast on, how to do the increases. There is this really fun textured fabric. So it kind of looks like it's stockinette from this side, but it's actually not. It's a really fun texture. And again, it's super easy and you memorize it like that. So she will share how to do that and the cable. And I'm telling you, do not fear the cable. It is so easy. So you work the shawl, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So you can make it as big or as small as you want it. And I love shawls like that because if you want to use up every bit of yarn, you absolutely can. Or if you want to make it a smaller thing, like maybe you just want bandana size, maybe you're making it for a child, you can make whatever size you want. You can just stop. As soon as the shawl is the size that you want it to be, just stop. So I love shawls that are written like that. And so, yeah, each section is just a bunch of repeats. She includes a repeat counter. So I like if you're like a person that likes to physically check things off, like on paper, you can do that. I used a row counter. I got this from Twice Sheared Sheep. I just think these are just so handy. So it just is this chain and it has numbers on it. And then of course a cute little bubble stitch marker at the bottom because everything needs a decoration. So you keep this on, you use this just like a stitch marker and you keep it, it has all these loops at the top of each number. So as I'm working my rows, like here's row 1. So when I get to row 2, I just move it, you know, and just slip it like a stitch marker, but I just slip it one below. So then that way when I would get to the row that I needed to cable, I would know. And that made it so easy that I could take this on the go. I didn't even need my pattern. So yeah, this came in really handy. And it was probably one of the first patterns that I really used something like this for. But I feel like I'll be using this again. So yeah, so we are hosting a knit along. I really hope that you join us. The yarn that I used would probably be really helpful. So I knit this in my Ghost Town DK yarn. It is a heavy DK weight yarn. It is US sourced. It is such a scrumptious yarn. It's a merino rambouillet. It's pretty high twist, so it's super springy, as in like bouncy, has tons of memory. It's a yarn that I just, once I found it, like it had to be in the shop pretty much immediately. And it's kind of funny, at first it was just going to be just kind of like a highlight collection, something I was just going to try, offer it, and it's never left the shop. It is such a good yarn. And more I'm trying to bring in more domestic yarn options. If it was up to me, a goal of mine is to make my entire shop a domestic yarn shop. So we'll see if I can get there. But yes, so this was knit in my Ghost Town DK yarn, and I needed 3 skeins. So again, as in my last project, I am a tall girly. So I generally, because of my wider shoulders and my longer torso, I generally need a lot more length in my shawls because I need more length for these army things to wrap around my shoulders. And then I do like when the point kind of fully goes all the way down. So I did add an extra repeat. So a repeat again is every twist of the cable. And so this is the amount of yarn that I had left over. So just pointing out that that I did have enough yarn to do an extra repeat. I used the needle size that was recommended in the pattern, and I don't gauge swatch for shawls, so I don't know what my gauge was. But I do tend to be a little bit of a tighter knitter. So normally, like if I am gonna do a sweater, I will gauge swatch and I'll automatically just jump to the needles like one higher. And like for some shawls and stuff, especially for designers where I've knit some of their stuff like a ton, I already know that I just need to jump to the needle size that's higher. But I just use the needle size that was recommended for this. So mine might be just a skosh, denser than potentially Jessica's sample. I blocked it really strongly though, so hopefully it's the same size. But anyway, rambling. I did have enough yarn to do another repeat of the section. I don't think I would have more yarn left over to do another repeat. Because when you get to the end, you're going all the way. So you're using a lot of yardage with each row once you're getting towards the end, because it's when the shawl is really, really big. And then you do put on a border. So I was nervous that I wasn't going to have enough for the border. But I think it's plenty big. It's absolutely perfect because it completely covers me, will keep me so nice and warm in the winter, but it's not adding a lot of bulk here, so I can still zip up my coat. So the color, the color has such a wonderful story as well. So this is the color Ontario, and yes, it is named for Lake Ontario. So again, that wonderful story of being inspired by the water. I wanted to create something that was interpretive of the water and inspired of the water. Jessica had given me two color options that she was kind of torn between in terms of what she was interested in and using to design the shawl. So she really loved my one colorway that's called Beach Water, and I don't have a skein to show you, but I do have a very, very well worn sample. This thing has been worn so many times, like, wow, does it need some love? It needs a shave, a block. I love how much I've worn it. My dog's down here snoring, in case you heard that. Anyway, so, but this is Beach Water. What pattern is this? I think this is what's that one that everyone's done? The ranunculus. I think this is a ranunculus. Anyway, this is Beach Water. So it's got a lot of like aqua. It's a very like light watery blue colorway. So this was one of the ones that she had suggested as a possibility. The other one was 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is a very popular colorway. This is a colorway that does not remain in stock in my shop for very long, for good reason. It is a very deep teal colorway. It's one of my favorites. It's the kind of color that looks good with everything, looks good on every skin tone. It's highly saturated. So these were the two colors that she was torn between. And so I said, you know what if we combined the recipes, and I'll add, do some other, variations, and we'll kind of get something that's a little bit in the middle, but is perfectly tailored for this project. And that's what I did. And that's where we came up with Ontario. Ontario is very dark. I feel like it does look very similar to 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But I feel like this skein shows it a little bit better. But you can see that there are those sections of aqua and blue. So it's a little bit more blue. It's got a bit more aqua. And whereas 10,000 Leagues was dyed in a way that's meant to be more consistently tonal. This was dyed in a way to make it appear more variegated. So it's lots of different tones and shades of similar colors, but dyed in a way to present it in a way that looks variegated. So with the intention that it'll look like rippling water. And that is the result. So September 22nd, which is coming up pretty fast, is the knit along kicks off. We will be gathering together on Zoom, but it does keep going on all the way until November. So if you're not ready to join us this coming Sunday, don't worry, it's going to keep going. I haven't decided what I want to knit my next one in, but since I did a solid colored one, I'm kind of thinking that I want to do my next one as either a fade or a color block. I haven't quite decided yet. I'm kind of leaning towards a fade, and right now this is my number one contender. So I've pulled, this is the fall edition of Nutmegged. This is a spring colorway that I did called Poet's Garden. And this is a colorway that I did in collaboration with Knitting Our National Parks with India Untangled, called Monarch Chandelier. So I thought the three of those together as a fade would be really pretty and different. So that's what I'm leaning towards right now. We'll see what tomorrow brings. I have one final whip to share with you, but I think that it is going to segue beautifully into the whips that I currently have going on, or at least just the tiny snapshot of whips that I was going to share with you today. So this next shawl, this is called Here Comes the Sun. Oh, obsessed. So this is a shawl pattern that was designed by a local to me designer, Nancy Vandevert. She designed this in collaboration with my local to me local yarn store called Liftbridge Yarns. They're in Fairport, New York. So earlier this year in April, Rochester was in the path of totality for the solar eclipse. So we were hoping we were going to get to experience it. It turned out to be 100% cloud cover. It was neat in that we got to experience a minute and a half of midday total blackout, but we didn't really get to see like the corona and all of the other kind of fun things. But anyway, it was still a neat thing. The lead up to it was probably more exciting. So Nancy designed this shawl as a special project to celebrate the eclipse, to commemorate the occasion, and then a whole bunch of local yarn dyers, including myself, put kits together for Liftbridge Yarns. It was a really fun project. So of course I had to cast on my own shawl. So many shops and whatnot were selling all these different souvenirs and t-shirts, and I thought, what could be more special of a souvenir than to have a shawl where I can remember my cloudy day eclipse experience. So I am so happy that that I knit this. It's very special. So yes, so I knit mine in of course I had to create a special colorway for a special shawl. So I had created a commemorative colorway for the eclipse that I had called Totality. I feel like you can see a very big teal theme for me this year. Teal has been like the the color between Totality, 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Ontario. I am just all shades of teal for me, and that's fine. Like, I'm here for it. I love teals and greens. So I'm not mad about it. But yeah, so it's a very, very dark, inky, but like not inky. This is more of like a black teal. So I wanted something. It's funny. I actually took a bit of the base of 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but instead of adding more aqua and blue like I had done for Ontario, I added a lot of black. So I wanted something that was very dark, and you can see in the shawl, it is very dark. It almost looks from a distance, it almost looks black in the shawl, and that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted something that had that kind of night, iridescent kind of sky, but that was off. It's not black, almost like a duck feather. You know, something that when you really look at it in the sun, you're like, that's got some beautiful color to it. It's got, you know, like a plumage color. So I'm really excited how that came out. And I also did it on my Glamour Girl, which, if you can see the sparkle. So this has 10% Lurex in it. Lurex is an actual metallic thread. So I prefer this over Stellina because it doesn't dull. So it's an actual thread, metallic thread that's been like plied through the yarn. So it just adds a lot of sparkle and shine to it that I think is very, very lovely. And of course, for an eclipse, you needed to bring out the stars. So this was my kind of background contrast color. How the pattern was written. It was written for, was it 2 colors or 3 colors? I want to say that there was like 2 versions of the shawl, and you could there was like a 2-color version, like as in your other colors. There was either like a 2-color or a 3-color version. But you know, me being me, I didn't use this color. Me being me, I have to do everything extra. So, it must have been 3 colors, and then I added 1 extra. That's what it is. Okay. I know I added extra colors. So I was seeing pictures of the shawl, and I don't know, I just got this different vision in my head. So I added in an extra color, but more specifically what I did that's different from the pattern is this top section. The original pattern has you doing all one background color for this top section. And I thought it'd be really pretty to do kind of cascading rays of the sun. So not only did I add in an extra 4th color, but I also broke up these colors. So like I counted, you know, how many rows you would do and essentially divided it by 4 so that I would know when to change my colors. And then so that's how I have this like gradient. And I started from darkest to light, and then I repeated that gradient, darkest to light, to again try to mimic like the rays of the sun as they were getting blocked by the moon. I continued with that gradient for all the sections. So for my darkest color, I used Christmas Cactus. This was a colorway that was in the last Advent that I did. It's been quite a while since I've done an Advent, so I want to say it was either in 2021 or 2022. It's been a while since I've done one, but this was one of the Advent colors, and it's such a bright mix of like royal purple with an undertone of, there's some pinks and magentas in there that kind of pop out. So I love how you get like some hidden stitches in there of like pink and magenta. It's a really neat effect. For my next color, I used Orchid Mantis. So this is a really fun mix of some bright pink, magenta, and lots of deep kind of plummy speckles. Then I used Golden Afternoon. This is a colorway that has been in my shop for so long, and it is still one of my favorites that I grab for so many projects. It's a bright orange, as you can see, but it also knits up just very, I don't even know like how to describe it. It's bright but balanced. So there's pops of like these bright orange sections that really give it that brightness. But then there's a lot of like more deep rust and coppery tones in here that really help to balance it down and give it kind of like a neutral balancing effect, if I'm making sense at all. So it's orange, but it plays more like a neutral, and so that's that color. And then for my pop of yellow, I've got Sippin' on Sunshine. It's such a happy color. One of my favorite yellows. So it's a bright yellow, kind of like a canary yellow. And it's a yellow that I've added a bit of brown and some deeper, almost orangey speckles to. And again, I've done that to kind of balance it. I know that yellow can sometimes be a little bright, can be a little harsh on skin tones. So adding in those balancing colors. Yeah, so that's the shawl. Super happy with how it came out. It was really fun. I love mosaic knitting, and that's what most of the techniques are. It's all this section, and this section is all mosaic. I just find, for whatever reason, the rhythm of slipping stitches is just so relaxing to me, more so than doing like stranded color work. And yeah, so I loved it. And then the bottom is just some like basic wavy lace. So I'm so happy with this shawl, and it's just so bright and fun to wear. So because I added in some extra colors, I ended up having quite a bit of yarn left over, which is fine. Yeah, so I probably had about like half a skein of all of the colors left over. So I've since used some of them, so they're a little bit smaller, but I had quite a bit of yarn left over of all of the colors. Not so much of the main color. I actually had very little of the main color, but I had quite a bit of my other colors, like I said, at least half a skein, since I had pulled in that extra color. But fortunately, right around the time that I was binding off this shawl, Vanessa Ewing of Cape May Fibers, she had just released the most fantastic pullover pattern. I saw it and I was just like, this colorwork pattern was made for me. Look at this. So this is called the Seashell Pullover, and as you can see, it features seashell motifs in the yoke. I feel like the orange ones aren't as obvious. It definitely needs to be blocked out. But those purple clamshells, obsessed. So I saw that she had released this pattern, instantly purchased it. And I thought that all these leftovers would be perfect to incorporate into the colors of my seashells. And it's working out beautifully. So this is my first whip that I would like to share with you, my seashell pullover. So I feel like I've been working on this for a while. I did cast this on over the summer. And it's a fingering weight pullover, and it's not just a fingering weight, it's knit on pretty small needles. Size 5, so not too bad, but I want to say like the collar, like the ribbing I was doing on size 3. So it's a little bit of a slow go, which is fine. But it's been fun. I love the pattern. And there's so much detail in it that has been really exciting, especially beads. So I don't know how much, the camera's a little too far away from me. I don't know how much you're gonna be able to see, but there are beads in this pattern that I think are just so fun. So like there's one right there if you can see it, and then there's you probably can see them because they're green. There's some in the purple shells. So I love how like it's color work, there's beads. It's so much fun. And I'm enjoying knitting it. I've put it down for a couple other projects. I had to make some samples for my shop for my fall show. So unfortunately, this is the one that got put down, but not because I didn't want to work on it. Work came in the way. But yeah, I am loving it. I actually just split for sleeves. So now that my show is over, I picked this back up, and finally just added on enough length and just split for sleeves, like just. So I can't wait. I'm really hoping to be able to wear this in Rhinebeck. I feel like it's definitely like Rhinebeck sweater worthy because it's got beads, it's got color work, it's all my own yarn. Oh, and I feel like I didn't mention the yarn base for these colorways. So this is my American Merino Dream. American Merino Dream is another US sourced yarn base. And this is a mercerized US sourced merino wool. It is so soft. It is cashmere soft. It's got excellent drape. Yeah, it's just one of those super buttery soft yarns. So I will say that that's probably another reason why the color work is going a little slow, because it is so soft that it's got quite a slip to it. So some of the tensioning has just been, a little bit more of a challenge compared to like a grippier non-superwash yarn that, kind of grips to your fingers a little bit better, grips to its neighbor stitch a little bit better. So as your stitches land, they hold in place. And it's funny, as I have been going back and forth between the project I'm going to show you next, which is a very grippy non-superwash yarn, the difference in doing color work with a grippy non-superwash yarn and this, wow, like your color work just flies and lays down with a nice grippy yarn. So this one, it just takes a little bit of patience and focus because you have to really pay attention to your tensioning with the slipperier, with this softer yarn. But the end result is going to be worth it because it's going to just feel so wonderful to wear. But you can see Rhinebeck is 4 weeks away, 3.5 weeks away. And I've got a long way to go. I've got 2 sleeves and a full body. So I've got work to do, but it's okay because I've split for sleeves and I just have one more color work chart to go. There's just like some dots and then it should just be into the slog of just go. So I'm really hopeful I can do it. I actually got I'm so optimistic that I'm going to have this finished for Rhinebeck that I even purchased some earrings to go with it. So I got these from Hello Lavender. So I was not able to go to the Flock Fiber Festival this year that was in Seattle. But fortunately, Hello Lavender did put up some of their leftover inventory from Flock online, and I snatched these up. Because they match perfectly. They're seashell earrings that feature orange and purple, and I'm using orange and purple for my seashells. So yeah, for my colors, it's kind of hard to tell, but there's this really pretty kind of detail work, just random shapes, I guess, but it just adds a little bit of interest. So like there's this yellow up top and you can't see it because it's so close to my needles, but there's just like these lines that add some really fun interest. So for the detail work, since that just can kind of fade into the background, I'm using the Sippin' on Sunshine. So it doesn't contrast a lot with my background color, but I thought that that was okay because again, it's just kind of shapes. You know, it's one of those things where like it didn't need to be detailed. It's not like a seashell or something where you really needed to see its shape. So for the detailed shapes, I wanted to make sure that those contrasted well so that you knew this is a seashell. So for my top row, that I think those are supposed to be like the conch shells. I brought back my golden afternoon, so my orange color. And for my clam shells, I've got Christmas cactus. So you can see I still actually have quite a bit left because, so I would have started, I didn't end up using any of this. So I would have started with about this much. And so I feel like I'm going to need even a third project that, you know, to use with these colors, which that's fine. Keep using this yarn. And then for my body, this is a colorway called Teal RL. This was actually my local yarn store day colorway last year. Yes, last year. So now that it has been a full year and more, I will offer it in the shop. So I try to keep it very exclusive to only the local yarn stores for at least a year to support them. But since it's been more than a year and they now have a brand new colorway that's just for them, I thought I'd throw it in the sweater. So that's called Teal RL. Does anyone else remember Total Request Live? Nostalgia. Yeah, another teal colorway. I mean, kind of. It's more like light teal aqua, but yeah, it's pretty teal. So very excited with how that's coming out. Need to get my butt in gear if I'm going to finish that by Rhinebeck. But I can do it. It's going to happen. One final project to share with you. It's actually 2 whips, but kind of one project. It's a project that is so special to me, and I'm so excited to share where I am with it. So if anyone's been following me for a little bit of time, you may know that I have started to collaborate with some of the local wool producers here in New York State, and I have started to offer New York State produced and spun yarns. So 2 years ago, I debuted my very first New York State yarn. I called it Ellis after Ellis Island. It was a very light fingering weight yarn. I say was because sadly I have very little bit of Ellis left. In fact, not a single skein of bare yarn left to dye other than the few that I am clutching for myself only. So I can no longer do any like custom orders. So everything that's in the shop is all that I have left, and it's not much. I think I'm down to about my last 25 skeins, and that's it. So but this is Ellis. This was the very first yarn. So this was produced on 2 small farms here in New York State. So it's a combination of Rambouillet wool and Finn wool, and it was spun at Battenkill as a 2-ply. It was technically spun as a lace weight. It's a little bit thick for a lace weight, but it's not quite a fingering weight. The way that it blooms is incredible. So you can sub it in for a fingering weight for like lightweight garments and especially lace shawls. I could go on and on, but we're not here about Ellis. We are here about Empire Estate. So in June, I received my next installment of my New York State line of yarns, and I have since named it Empire Estate. So New York State, if you're not familiar, is called the Empire Estate. And so this yarn is a DK weight yarn. It is 100% sourced from Ellie's Acres Farm. It's a farm that's in central New York, and they have a herd of Rambouillet sheep. It was spun again at Bat and Kill, and it was intentionally spun. My idea and concept, I'm literally just picking hay out of it. Like that's how like farmy goodness this is. So my vision and intention for this yarn was to be able to create a capsule wardrobe for yourself. So I had garments in mind for this. Good quality, timeless garments, sweaters, pullovers. So this was spun up to be a DK weight 3-ply yarn that was specifically designed and spec'd for creating your capsule wardrobe. So I received this yarn in June. I've been working with it all summer to create my fall collection and to knit some wonderful samples with it. And I couldn't be happier with it. It's an incredible yarn. And like I hinted with my last project, doing color work with this yarn, it's addicting just how it snaps and clings to its neighboring stitches. It's like it does the color work itself. I've had, other designers, other friends, other knitters say, you should only do color work with non-superwash yarns. And I was like, don't tell me what to do. Like, that's ridiculous. I really understand now the theory behind that. I will still knit with whatever I want. Don't tell me what to do. But I really understand what that means now. That, how color work and this yarn goes hand in hand is incredible. And let me show you what I mean. Ta-da! So this is the Maxine sweater. Still a bit work in progress, but look, I don't have much to go. So this is actually a test knit that I'm working on by knitwear designer Laura Penrose. It's just so good. It's such a good pattern. I did a few days ago, I did do a quick little try on that's on my Instagram if you wanted to check it out to see how it's fitting so far. But I have since already added on quite a bit, even since that video that was just a couple days ago. So this is a test knit pattern. The pattern is coming out in November. She had posted a little teaser of it on Instagram, and I had messaged her because I was like, that would be absolutely perfect in my Empire State yarn. There was just something about it that it just seemed like they would match really, really well together. And oh boy, do they, like, so well. It's a beautiful motif. I love how it's got these like quilt stars, but it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, so the pattern's coming out in November, so you'll have to wait a little bit if you want to cast yours on. I've got all the colors in my shop if you did want to grab your kits now, though. The pattern is written for, I should have double checked this. I want to say that it is written for 5 colors, if I'm remembering correctly. It is, because was it 5 or 6 for the yoke? Oh, I should have looked at this ahead of time. So I can't remember if it was written for 5 or 6 colors, but she has in the test, and so I'm assuming it's going to come out in the regular pattern. She included charts that if you wanted to modify down to 3 colors, she recolored the charts for you. So you did not have to do the work that if you wanted to use less colors, she recolored them for you, so that you could just go ahead and choose basically however many colors you wanted. I ended up using, so I guess technically 4 colors, but 3 contrast colors. And I had meant to use 4, 5. I had meant to use 5. And I know this was one of them, and Empire was one of them. So it must be a 5-color chart. Yes, because this was my original kit. So, so this is Pumpkin Spice. This is Ontario. This is Lost in the Maze. No. This is not what I used. Hold on. Okay, I am back. And I think I have my life a little bit more sorted out now. This is how I know that this podcast has probably gone on a little bit too long, because I need a coffee, refresher, and probably a meal. So, okay, yes, the pattern was originally written for 5 contrast colors. And these were the colors that I was going to do. And I mean, looking at it now, I mean, that kit is absolutely beautiful. And I feel like I kind of want to find a project to still use this original color set with. So if anybody has an idea of like any kind of color work project, or even just like it doesn't have to be stranded color work, like any kind of like stripey thing or whatever, I feel like that's something that still needs to be explored. So this was my original kit that I had put together. I had caked it all up. I was ready to go. I started to cast on, and I had knit with Ontario, the Peach, which is Red Haven, and Pumpkin Spice, not Lost in the Maze, but Pumpkin Spice. So I had started using these 3, and they just looked so good. Just so good that, and then, so this is my main color, that I didn't want to add another color. Like, even though, like, I knew that, like, they looked good, just how this was looking, like, I don't know, it was one of, like, I had that, I didn't want to mess with a good thing. Like, it just looked so perfect. I can always make something with all of them. But this just looked so perfect. And I'm glad that I stuck with my gut and just omitted those 2 colors. And so since the pattern didn't have a chart, I just, made my own. I made notes in my Ravelry, so when the pattern does come out, I made notes with like what color I used for each chart, so that if you did want to copy how I did each chart, you can do so. Yes, so super happy. Essentially all I did was, so these 2 charts, all I did was invert the colors, and yeah, super easy. And I'm very, very happy with how the color work came out. I do feel like the pink, isn't as contrasty, and, you might lose a little bit of the detail work with just how light the pink is, but it's, as a color, like as a garment, it's very pretty. So I'm very pleased. I'm very happy. So now I'm just in the body part of it. It's just a lot of knitting the body. I'm going to have to go back to the pattern to see how long of a waistband I'm supposed to put on this thing, because I think I'm getting, so it's got a folded collar, which I have not, hemmed down yet. So it's going to be like that. There is an option to do a turtleneck. I don't like stuff on my neck. Gotta be honest, I'm even nervous about this folded thing. Might be a little too much on my neck, but I think it's fine. Yeah, like I bet another like 2 inches, and I bet I can start putting some ribbing, and then I can start doing the sleeves. So this is another one that's probably going to be coming to Rhinebeck with me. I feel like there's a much better chance that I'm going to be finishing this one in time for Rhinebeck. historically, Rhinebeck has been so freaking hot. So I don't know if I'll be able to wear it, but I'm going to try. So I'm excited for that. So my very last project that I'm going to share before I sign off is also in this yarn because, so since I had not used the yarn that I had skeined up, I feel like I have to sneeze. Okay, it's passing. So I had skeined up some yarn for this that I ended up not using. So I wanted to use it. And so one of the colors, this is Empire. And so I thought for Rhinebeck, because I don't know if it's going to be cool enough to wear such a heavy sweater, but because my Empire State yarn is so special to me, I really want to be able to wear something in this yarn. I thought it would be perfect to cast on a doodle scarf in the yarn, and then I can wear that to Rhinebeck. So Doodle is by Jamie Lomax of Pacific Knit Co. She has been creating these doodle patterns where they're like little charts that you can like mix and match, and it is the most brilliant concept ever. You plug and play. You pick your picture and you plug and play it into your pattern, and all the charts are like they're all the same size, so all the stitch counts just work. It is the most brilliant thing ever, and it is so much fun. So I'm so pleased, so happy. So this is Empire, and this, and then I'm gonna do kind of like a jewel toned rainbowy thing. So then this is what I have left over in pumpkin spice. So this is from the yoke of my sweater. So I'm gonna do that one next. So again, I don't know if I'm gonna finish this in time because it's a scarf, which means I have a lot to go. But I'm gonna try. So those are all my projects. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.